Over 30 years ago, a game came out that tried to show people how cool the Atari Jaguar was. That game was CYBERMORPH. And I'm not quite sure it succeeded. CYBERMORPH was the memorable pack-in game with the Jaguar in 1993. Many compared it to 1993's Star Fox, which is very important, that we'll discuss later. CYBERMORPH was inspired by the Atari ST game, Zarch, an early 3D game from 1987. Around that same time, in 1988, Atari began developing their next system, the Panther. They had a couple of games planned, and CYBERMORPH itself is simply a direct port of an Atari Panther game. The only one, in fact. Although the arcade game, Raiden, may have been another one. The Atari Panther had a planned release for 1991 to hit store shelves. All this being said, it's hard to know when CYBERMORPH first began being created. But if it was planning on being a launch game for the Panther, then we can assume that the game was completed by 1991. If it was launched in 91, people would have been much more impressed by it. Despite how much people compared CYBERMORPH to Star Fox, CYBERMORPH was actually being created and worked on for years before Star Fox was even a concept, so CYBERMORPH was never a rip-off of Star Fox. History is hazy on when Star Fox for Super Nintendo was first being worked on, but we do know that the Super FX chip was implemented with the Super Nintendo for some early 3D showcase games for the console. The company known as Argonaut, which later became best known for giving us one of our childhood favorite characters of Croc for the PS1, first actually began in the 80s, and they worked on the Atari ST game Star Glider, which impressed Nintendo. Perhaps something about Star Glider inspired the creation of Star Fox. Star Glider was also released in 1986, so the late 80s were the early stages of what was to come in 1993 with CYBERMORPH and Star Fox. Argonaut Software was one of the pioneers of early 3D gaming, and would also heavily influence the creation of Super Mario 64. Perhaps Nintendo should have made Argonaut a second-party publisher, just like with Rareware. Then, we may have gotten some other really cool things. Anyway, there are many thoughts that come to mind when reviewing CYBERMORPH. It makes you think about the history of the Atari Panther and the Atari Jaguar, not just the game itself. The problem with the game is that it's not a great game. It's only a good game. Despite the flaws of the game, I think it was the right choice to bundle it with the Jaguar. So now I'm going to give it a proper review. The game is fascinating, and I do think it is graphically way better than Star Fox. Come on, people. Many say that Star Fox looks much better. I disagree. Star Fox is more fun to play and has memorable characters and a better name. But the graphics of the Atari Jaguar are way better than the Super Nintendo, and CYBERMORPH shows that off. CYBERMORPH reminds me a lot of Mario 64 actually, that you can control your ship in any direction and explore the large 3D environment freely. This you can't do in Star Fox. So CYBERMORPH is more impressive in that way as well. CYBERMORPH also gives off an isolating experience and makes you feel very alone. The same barren feeling is also given off by Mario 64. We don't even know if anyone is even piloting the ship that you fly in the game. You never see a face, and there is barely a window to see through the front of the ship. Also, the way the ship morphs from time to time also makes the ship seem as if it's alive. The only character CYBERMORPH has is the green girl that talks to you on your missions. She's not a great character, but she's the only one you got on your isolating missions. CYBERMORPH is basically Mario 64, just in the air. Collecting pods is like collecting stars in Mario 64, and both are major 3D titles that set the bar for the future of gaming. To say that Atari was ahead of their time is an understatement. CyberMorph was a mere glance, a mere glimmer at what video games were going to become, the slow rise of 3D gaming and 3D adventure games. Perhaps CyberMorph wasn't as big of a deal as Mario 64 because it wasn't with the character Mario. Mario was a superstar, so anything they did with him, people always cared more about. CyberMorph is lacking in memorable characters, and CyberMorph itself may have been what Trevor McFur was going to be before they changed it to a 2D affair. According to Wikipedia, CyberMorph actually began development as Trevor McFur in the Crescent Galaxy, which I think they should have done instead. Trevor McFur should have been flying the ship in CyberMorph. Giving CyberMorph the cool Jaguar character of Trevor would have been more appealing to people in 1993 than yet another generic spaceship which was overdone in the 70s and 80s gaming. So many say that the gameplay of Star Fox is fun and CyberMorph is dull and boring. Well, I have to admit, it is a little dull, but the game still is very appealing and charming in a mysterious and eerie way. In CyberMorph, you mostly collect the pods to complete your missions. Many complain about this gameplay decision. I always enjoyed it though. I have no idea why it's been complained about. It's an odd, rewarding feeling collecting these pods in CyberMorph. It's cool that you can choose a bunch of planets to go through for each of your missions, and each planet is colored differently, which is a very nice touch. I like that a lot. It gives the game plenty of variety. The enemies are a highlight of CyberMorph. They have cool designs and there's tons of them flying around, like a swarm of bees. It takes a while to master the controls, but once you do, the enemies actually aren't too annoying. So I've grown to love CyberMorph over the years. But now I want to talk about the things I hate, or the flaws, of CyberMorph. As I see it, the game has 3 major flaws: no music, no save feature, and no instructions. The game should offer a trial mode, so that people would know how to properly play the game, as everyone who plays it for the first time flies super fast, endlessly crashes into walls, and dies right away. The game basically sets you up for failure. You have to slowly control your rate of speed with the C button, and fully stop your ship sometimes with the B button, and fly at a decent speed to avoid enemies in the mountains. So CyberMorph sets you up for failure, and the game assumes that the controls are self-explanatory, as if you're playing Super Mario or something. This would be like if you drove a car for the first time and no one told you anything at all. Then you would probably crash the car and hate the idea of driving. Why couldn't the ball green chick explain what to do? There just wasn't enough care put into certain aspects of the game. But it's still a very good game. Once you master the controls, you can have a fun time, and you won't be crashing into the damn mountains anymore. When you're flying, you have to constantly slow your ship down and fully stop to shoot at certain things, like buildings and structures holding the pods captive. One major complaint of CyberMorph is that the mountains aren't always there, and will emerge out of nowhere, taking gamers by surprise. But after you play the game for a little while, you get used to it. You just have to remember your surroundings. Gamers are so coddled by modern 3D games that they assume the whole environment should always be there. This has always been one of my biggest pet peeves of game reviewers, is bitching about the texture mapping in early 3D games. It's never been jarring or annoying to me, but everyone seems to think it's a huge problem, like they can't handle it. It's not a flaw in the game. The technology just wasn't here to make the environments appear all there. Do people think that they shouldn't have even bothered then? Then where would 3D gaming be today? The mountains are one of the coolest things about CyberMorph. It makes the planet seem more alive. Now on to my other issues. No music. Yes, CyberMorph has no fucking music, except for the menu, where you pick the planet you want to travel to. It's absurd. I understand they had a tight deadline for the game, but giving the game no music is unacceptable. It worked in Jaguar's version of Doom that there was no music, because it's a creepy game where you're walking around in demonic dungeons and the devil creatures that spook you. Someone, somewhere, should have said to add music to CYBERMORPH before its release. They were jackasses for not giving it any music. There isn't even any music on the title screen when you start the game. No cool intro, just the title. The intro of the game lacks excitement. Now on to my third complaint, the game over aspect of the game. The game over part in video games has been debated for years now, but if it's going to have a game over screen, then I should be at least able to save my game. But every time you get a game over in CYBERMORPH, all the planets you completed are now restored, as if you didn't do anything. That's a shitty feeling to know that all the hard work you just did is now all gone. This isn't an arcade game. It's a full, roaming, console-exclusive 3D adventure game. If the games of the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo can save your games, then the Atari Jaguar should easily be able to do it as well. Because when you get a game over in CYBERMORPH, most people don't want to play it anymore. It just makes people shut the game off, which is a very bad feeling they give for a pack-in game for the Jaguar. Anyway, at the end of the day, I do love CYBERMORPH despite its flaws, but let me know if you guys agree or disagree with me. Please like and subscribe, and please hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any of my uploads. Atari Jaguar for life. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you all again next time.
Where did you learn to fly?